Hey YouTube, how you doing? Biggie here, how's everything? And welcome to another movie review. Today's movie review, I'm going to be reviewing, if you remember in the last movie review I did, I reviewed the hit 1987 action-packed film Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. Well, today I'm reviewing its sequel. It's called Lethal Weapon 2. Yep, Lethal Weapon 2 was released in the summer of 1989. Excuse me again. Yep, released in the summer of 1989. It's directed by Richard Donner and produced by Richard Donner and Joel Silver. And this is also written by Shane Black. Yeah, as well. And Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, they reprised their roles as Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh, the two LAPD detectives. And a pretty good amount of cast from the original film comes back, like Steve Kahan as Lieutenant Ed Murphy, Mary Ellen Trainor as the police psychiatrist, Stephanie Woods. And I really like this film a lot. Normally sequels don't do that well, but I give this film a lot of praise. And more of the original cast comes back from the first film, comes back to this, like Traci Wolfe as Roger Murtaugh's older daughter, Rhiannon, Ebonie Smith as Carrie Murtaugh, and Damon Hines as Nick Murtaugh. And we all know Darlene Love as Trish Murtaugh, Roger's wife, and even Riggs' dog, collie named Sam, comes back, and the cat named Burbank comes back, Murtaugh's cat. And also, this is not just the second Lethal Weapon film out of the four films. It also makes the debut of Joe Pesci as Leo Getz, a real talkative pain in the butt. But he did a pretty good job in this movie as well. And like, whatever you need, Leo Getz. Yeah. The plot of this film is where Mel Gibson and Danny Glover return as Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh as two LAPD detectives, and they work undercover again as they work on trying to stop a gang of South African political diplomats from smuggling drugs and gold coins called Krugerrands in the United States of America, the USA. And the South African political diplomats, the head leader's name is Arjun Rudd, played by Josh Ackland, and Peter Forsted, played by Derrick O'Connor. Riggs called him Adolf. And them and the other South African diplomats, they use their diplomatic immunities to engage in criminal activities, and they eventually end up killing police officers. They tried to warn them off, but it never worked. And when Rudd and the other diplomats showed the police officers at their place, which was called a stilt house, which was a house on stilts, they showed the cops their diplomatic immunities, and Rudd said under the Diplomatic Relations Act, no diplomatic agent may be detained or arrested once his or her identity's been established. But Riggs and Murtaugh were still following them and trying to bring them down, but they did get brought down in the end of the movie, and that's what Joe Pesci's character Leo Getz was testifying and scamming them as. And he was placed into protective custody, and Riggs and Murtaugh were babysitting them until Washington, D.C. sends out the feds. But however, Riggs eventually falls in love with one of the South African diplomats, of secretary named Rika Vandenhaas, played by Patsy Kensit. And I will admit, I did have a crush on her when I first saw this film. And yeah. She was Dutch in the movie. She said it was Dutch. And I really enjoyed her in this movie. She did a pretty good job as well. And eventually Riggs invites her to his house, a trailer outside of a cove on the beach / ocean. Eventually they get invaded by a hit squad of the South African diplomats and destroys his trailer completely. And then he starts shooting back at them, escaping. And they escape in his Riggs and Rika and Sam, they escape in Riggs' big dually GMC pickup truck. And when he takes Rika home, the diplomats eventually tried to kill him. They tried to drown him. They tied him up in chains, and then he found Rika in there in the ocean. And then he starts getting angry and starts killing the two diplomats that when he got out of the water, he starts like killing them, and that threw him in the ocean and everything, and he was so angry about everything. He was ready for revenge, so he gets revenge. Also, the South African diplomats, they kidnapped Leo and took him to his house, and they're like beating him and holding him hostage. And Riggs pulled down the stilt house with this big pickup truck, that dually, and Murtaugh goes in and shoots most of the diplomats, and and him and Leo escape from the stilt house, and it falls completely apart thanks to Riggs using his truck. And then eventually Riggs and Murtaugh go to a shipping dock as the South African diplomats are ready to leave to go back to South Africa. The ship was called Albavard, and it was a ship, not a woman. They thought it was a woman, but yeah. And then eventually the South African diplomats are taken out and shot. And there was one scene where Vorstead stabbed Riggs in the leg and with a knife, and he starts kicking and fighting and punching him, and Riggs starts bleeding and everything, and then Riggs starts like takes the knife out of his leg and stabs Vorstead in the stomach, and then walks over to the big shipping container button and presses the button, and it falls on him and kills him. And then eventually Rudd, he tried shooting Riggs and everything, and that's when Murtaugh pulls his gun. He's like, "Drop it!" and he goes, "Diplomatic immunity," and then Murtaugh just took the gun and just shot him right. Boom! And Murtaugh's like, "It's just been revoked." Yeah, and then eventually they survived and everything, and I mean Riggs was shot, but then he survived because you would see him in the third and fourth film and everything, and he's like, Riggs is like, "Where are the bad guys? Did you get them?" Murtaugh's like, "Hey, they've been taken care of," and I'm not going to say what he said; it's inappropriate, and they start laughing, and that's when the end credits show and everything. And I definitely love this film. I give this film 5 out of 5 stars. I wanted to mention I give Lethal Weapon, the first one, 5 out of 5 stars as well. It's a true classic, and normally sequels don't do well. And as much as I love the first Lethal Weapon, I love Lethal Weapon 2 a little bit more than the first, in my opinion. This movie had more action sequences than the first, like the scene with the South African diplomat invading Riggs and Murtaugh's arrest. He was hijacking a tow truck and everything, and when the surfboard went through the tow truck windshield and decapitated him, and I loved it. Yeah, and I even seen the behind the scenes of that. Yeah, and I loved the special effects in this movie. It was pretty good. I loved it. I liked it a lot more than the first, and all the actors were very good in it as well. And I totally recommend this film. If you've never seen Lethal Weapon 2 or any other Lethal Weapon movies, check this one out as well. And I definitely love Mel Gibson as Martin Riggs. I liked his truck in that film. It's my favorite body style pickup truck, the GMT 400 Chevy. Yeah, and I loved the stilt house being pulled down by that truck. It was great. Yeah, especially I love old General Motors and like that, and it had a big block 454 Chevy in it. I think at least majority of them did. I think that one did. They're good motors, but a lot of gas. Yep, 7.4 liters of power they were. Yep. But anyway, this movie had like a 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 7.3 out of a 10 on IMDb, and a 3.6 out of a 5 on Letterboxd. And 91% of Google users liked this film. I loved it. Yep. And it's pure dynamite enough humor, excitement, and action for 2 movies, says Rex Reed. And I agree on that. Yeah. And this film has the budget was had a budget of $30 million, and it scored over $227.9 million at the box office. So I recommend this film as well. If you've never seen Lethal Weapon 2, I recommend you check it out today. So, all right, YouTube, nice seeing you. Take it easy, be safe, and stay out of trouble. Peace.